Today, we'll be traveling to El Cid, a haunted nightclub on Sunset Boulevard in Los Angeles, to meet with Pleasant, the rock and roll witch, who co-runs a monthly witch-themed burlesque show called Belle Book and Candle, and we'll be asking her to share her secret to manipulating energy. My name is Melissa St. Hilaire, and I'm a professional witch, and these are the secrets of the craft.
We have a treat for you now. Without this person, the show would not exist. That's how badass this person is. She is also the punk rock witch. Please give it up for Princess fucking Farhana.
See the lines of your hand. I can see me, it's all about a stranger, giving you what you hadn't planned. I drank the potion she offered me. I found myself.
Tell us where we are and what this is.
We're at Belle Book and Candle, the Occult Burlesque show that I started with Shauna Leilani, Intuitive Shauna. We barely knew each other, and she didn't know that my real name was Pleasant, and she asked for private burlesque lessons, and everyone was telling her to go to Princess Farhana. And then when she walked into the studio, we were like, oh, I know you. And she wanted to do a burlesque act that she was calling Voodoo Housewife, and she took direction better than like almost any student I've ever had, and then she kept coming back, and then she invited me to her birthday party, which was I had a dream about Belle Book and Candle. I had an exact dream about this show, that it was going to be just like the movie Belle Book and Candle, but we'd put an E on the end because it meant pretty woman, or beautiful in French. And so I had a dream about it, and then she asked me to come and dance at her birthday party at this little dive bar in Northeast LA. And I wanted there to be psychics for Belle Book and Candle, and just all sorts of stuff. And when I walked into her birthday party, I was like, oh my God, this is my show, except my show's not in a dive bar. And then I'd been touring for dance for years, for like over 15 years, and was in LA from like one day to like maybe a week only, every few months. And so when Shauna and I met and we're going to do this, I said we had to have a place that had a big stage, like a raised stage and good lights, and a place for psychics and stuff like that. So then one morning I woke up and I was having like my clairaudient voice, which I just call the voice, because sometimes it's a man and sometimes it's a woman. And it was saying, call Lena. Lena will help you. Call Lena. Call Lena. And it got so incessant that I out loud said, okay. And Lena Vaccaro is a girl. She was a girl in the 80s when I was also still a girl, but I was already writing and putting on shows at clubs and doing all sorts of rock and roll stuff. I had a band. So I hadn't talked to Lena in like 5 years, and she's now the culture editor of the LA Weekly. But I hadn't talked to her in like 5 years, and I just texted her, hi, is this still your number? I want to run something by you. So she called immediately. We caught up on the phone, and then she said, so what do you, what did you want to talk about? And I said, I have this idea for a show, and I told her all about it. And she said, wow, that sounds incredible. And I told her, but I didn't know any of the venues in LA, and I thought she could help me with that. And I said, yeah, I don't know any clubs, but I keep coming back to one of them in my mind. And she said, what club is it? And I said, El Cid. And the phone went totally quiet, and I was like, do you not think that's a good idea? And she said, did somebody tell you I started booking it last night? And I screamed, what? So loudly that she dropped her phone. And so she said, I have a Wednesday in 2 weeks. Do you want it? And I said, fuck yes. And then the second sentence out of me was, but I'll only take it if I can get every Wednesday all summer. And she said, I don't know if the owner will go for that. but I'll call him. And I was like, please, I think I could make something out of this. And so she called the owner, who had her on speakerphone, and Lena was telling me about it. And fortuitously, his father was there, who used to be a club promoter in the 80s, and he just said, oh yeah, look, Pleasant can do whatever she wants, just give her all of it. And so that's how the show started.
This place is haunted.
I always heard rumors that El Cid was haunted. You can see how old Hollywood this whole place is. And I figured it was, because most buildings are in Hollywood, but it wasn't until I saw a really handsome man dressed in sort of like, to me it looked like a hipster version of sort of an Edwardian or, sort of 1920s Rudolph Valentino type guy sitting on the patio over here. And my friend and I were going, look at that guy, isn't he handsome? Look at him, isn't he handsome? And then he dematerialized. Also, the area in the back of the club near where the restrooms are, everybody says it's haunted. And our doorman, Dr. Lust, who's our MC's husband, has said that if anyone in his area is claiming that this place isn't really haunted, then the ghosts will start turning off his iPad, the Wi-Fi, and the light above the door. So that kind of stuff happens. And also one time backstage, I was standing there. This was probably like 15 years ago, not for Belle Book and Candle. But I was standing there putting my makeup on, and my compact picked up by itself and smashed to the ground. This place is definitely haunted.
Do you consider yourself a witch?
Yes, of course, I do.
And what is your craft?
I know. I mean, I think I would be called an eclectic witch because I take bits and pieces from everywhere. Like whatever. I'm of the thought school, whatever works.
I love that.
And sometimes, like, when I look back on my childhood through adolescence, I was called Witchy Poo in school from the HR Puff and Stuff show. People were calling me that. I was always interested in anything occulty and witchy, but that was like the derogatory nickname they gave me for no reason. It wasn't, I just looked like a normal kid in those days, in the 60s and the 70s, and somehow I got that nickname.
It was just inherent.
Yeah. And I remember also at El Cid, they were like, oh yeah, witch burlesque show. And we're like, no, we're real witches. We're doing rituals. And at one point, someone complained and said, yeah, I've got all these drink orders to fill, and they're on stage summoning Satan. But that was someone that said that just sarcastically. But then when we were telling them like what we did and stuff, we always would have crazy electrical problems. And I told the sound and light guy, and he at first didn't take it seriously, but then he started really taking it seriously because like everything had been reset and perfect, and then I would come in there and like screw everything up. But then also the manager didn't take it seriously until he was complaining about he had such a pulled muscle and a migraine and stuff. And I said, here, let me fix you. And I started giving him energy work. And he was like, whoa, I can feel this. What? Like that. And I was like, we're witches, we told you. Awesome. And you guys thought it was a gimmick, but
it's the real deal. That's why I like it, because you're like, it's not just a gimmick, it's not aesthetic, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you're actual witches, you know? And So you mentioned energy healing. So let's just launch into that for a second.
Okay.
So when did you first notice that you could affect electrical things?
Okay, well, even before the electricity, I was doing healing, but this was in the 60s and I was a child. So what would happen would be I would see a little squirrel or a fledgling crow or something fall out of a nest, and I would pick it up and hold it in my hands. And I'd think I was praying because I didn't have any, I wasn't really, I came from an interdenominational family and neither side practiced. So I was like wishing and praying, I thought, but then whatever it was, like I had a crow that I named Nevermore when I was 8. So already I was on this path clearly. But he thrived, and he used to sit on my shoulder as I'd walk to school, and then he'd wait on the jungle gym until I'd come out for recess, and then he'd go home with me. I'd see like a dog or a cat get like not run over by a car but hit by a car, and I would fix them. And I just thought I was lucky. I didn't know I was a kid. I had no idea. Even though at that point I was also stealing books from the library there. Sorry. And they were all about like magic and occult. And I still have some of them. I didn't think that you could really be a witch like how they were in olden days, but I was fascinated with it. So going on to the healing things, I have an electrical disturbance. I used to call it that because it was pre-internet and I had no idea what it was really called, but the real term for it is EPK, or electro-psychokinesis, and it's kind of like what Carrie in the movie could do, except EPK usually just manifests in people when they're either really stressed out, really excited or happy, or tired. And so I thought I was hiding this thing that I didn't know what it was when it was starting, that I could just like mess up anything electrical or technical. I thought I could hide it from people until they'd be saying, "Hey, Plez, it's so nice to see you. Come on in. Don't get near my computer." or people would see crazy things. Like in my dance classes that I was teaching at that point, and this was like still in the 90s and early 2000s, if someone wasn't getting a step, I would start, telling them jokes to like break their stress and stuff. But then at one point I remember, and this was on an old CD player, I was like, "Want to see something fun? Watch this." And so it was playing Arabic music for belly dance, because that's what I was teaching. But I put my hand about a foot above it and said, "Watch this." And I went like that, and I got a radio station doing sports. And I was like, "Here, watch this." And then I would get one that was playing like old mariachi music. And I did it a few more times, and people were like, "I want to do that too." And they would do it and nothing would happen. And, I could walk into a place. Like I remember one time I went in for an audition, and I got this part. It was for Charlie Wilson's War. But I walked in there and I was so nervous because I really wanted this. And every belly dancer, not just in LA or California, but the whole country was coming up for auditions. I put out the power on the entire block, and I know it was me. Like, not them. And I wound up and they wound up giving the part to an actress, but then I wound up being like the co-choreographer and technical advisor in that film. But it took putting out the power to break my stress.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh.
So at some point I realized I could channel it, and then when that happened, it stopped. I didn't have nearly the tech problems that I did because I was getting rid of whatever electrical charge in my body was. I was disposing of it so I didn't ruin things, but could use it for good work. And a lot of times when I'm doing energy healing on someone, they tell me without knowing anything about me or the process that it feels like a TENS machine, or it feels like electrical shocks. And I can do it for people emotionally or physically. And a lot of times when I even just go into their field emotionally, they'll just like burst into tears because they needed to, or like they'll have like a huge sigh of relief.
Okay, I'm going to change gears a little bit.
Okay.
So recently you released your latest book titled Rock and Roll Witch, a memoir of sex, magic, drugs, and rock and roll.
Yeah.
So Tell me about it. Did you use any spells to help you write, or?
No, because it had to come out like all my books. And also I wrote it in 2020. So I had plenty of time on my hands. The only spell I would have done would be to shut my phone off, because everyone always calls you when you're like doing something.
It's true.
But, I started at the very beginning of my witchiest recollections, and the very first story is about Indian Hill Cemetery, which was where I was hanging out when I was young. And then there was so many stories that there's definitely going to be a part 2. And I had to call it a memoir of sex, magic, drugs, and rock and roll, because sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And I didn't realize until I was compiling all the stories how many of them were with like people who are now legendary rock and roll people, but they were just my friends, and still are my friends. But it wasn't trying to be a name drop, It was just like, like doing the Ouija board with Belinda Carlisle. I mean, how many people can say they've done that? We used to do it all the time.
So do you incorporate any of your craft? Because I know you're energy healer, so it's with you all the time. But do you incorporate any of your craft into your mundane routines in life?
Oh, all the time. I always incorporate my craft into that. And even for Belle Book and Candle, Shauna and I made special mojo bags, which we still have. So the show would be a success. And then the very first one sold out and it just went. But I do it all the time. And sometimes I can't figure out sometimes I need to try to find the balance of, am I being superstitious or is this witchcraft? Because I get predictive dreams a lot, but I also do things like I won't walk under a ladder. I mean, I am so crazy in that way, and so many things and then I finally came to the conclusion, who cares if it's superstition or witchcraft? Whatever works. If it ain't broke, don't fix it,
Exactly.
So I do that all the time. I mean, I'll put energy around an intention around a certain situation, or I'll do spells for certain things,
And are there any secrets that you'd like to share about your craft?
Well, if I think that anybody could do energy work, it takes practice, just like as if you were a ballet dancer or or in my case, a belly dancer and a burlesque dancer. When I realized that I could do healings, I would do them and it would wipe me out. So what I did was I would work on it every day. So I would develop that energetic muscle. And I figured it was the same way as when I was practicing dance, like you do it, the more you do it, the stronger it gets. So I learned how to direct it. I learned how to, quit exploding any kind, light bulbs and ruining traffic signals and, just messing up people's computers and DAT machines. Once I got that under control, actually, those are probably the most embarrassing things that have happened to me, especially thinking that nobody knew.
Right.
So I wouldn't really call energy work a spell, but you've just got to work at it. And there's ways you can do that. And one of them is like you can make an energy ball. And you have to just envision this. So you have to have a really good imagination. I close my eyes because I always see and hear stuff better when my eyes are closed. So I would do that and I would play with it like it was like see-through energetic silly putty and make it bigger and make it smaller and make it bigger and make it smaller. Actually, I do have one crazy thing that happened from the energy healing, and this wasn't during a spell, but this was during a witchy incident. Okay, so at this point, I didn't know about getting grounded. And so my neighbor came over at 2 a.m. and said, I heard you're doing energy healing now. Can you fix my back? It's hurting me. And she trusted me implicitly, even though, she knew that it was sort of new for me to really be trying to develop this. So she laid down on the couch because I didn't even have a table to work on. And I started working on her, and I was pulling stuff out that was so huge and so dense, and it was purple, so I knew that the healing was working. But I was backing up and backing up and backing up, and that was in this house where we are. And I felt like it was 3 feet wide, and it could just keep going longer. It was like a long train of energy, and I was holding it, and I was feeling heavy, and I was like, oh yeah, I should just dispose of it. So I haphazardly threw it towards the kitchen door, thinking since it was a screen door, it would go outside, and I didn't do any like really good grounding. I hadn't done that or figure out how to get rid of energy. I just knew how to take it out of people. So I threw it in there, and immediately all the lights, I have these big shop lights in my kitchen, started flashing on and off with a noise that sounded like a major bank's burglar alarm system where it was going, and she sat up on the couch and she was like, what the fuck? And I was like, I don't know. And I ran into the ceiling and into the kitchen. And I didn't know what to do. So I just threw my hands up at the ceiling and I said, stop it. And it stopped. And then I heard her go like behind me because she was on the stairs and I didn't know that. And then I'm not even kidding, like about 1.5 or 2 feet of this white swirling smoke filled the entire ceiling, and it had these sharp things in it that looked like check marks, and it was just going around, and I was in my head I was like, what's going on? But I didn't know if she was seeing it, and so I was like, hey Chris, are you seeing this stuff? And she goes, oh, you mean all the black smoke? I mean all the smoke on the ceiling? I'm seeing it. What the fuck is going on here? And I was like, I don't know. And so I called someone. At that time, it was like 3 a.m. I called my paranormal investigation partner, and I was telling her all this shit. And she's like, did you get grounded? And I was like, I didn't know that you had to be grounded before this. And she goes, go outside and stand in the dirt under your tree. And I was like, okay.
Pleasant is going to show us how she does her energy healing.
Too bad you guys can't feel it. I pull the energy out, and then as soon as I have it, I snap it away it just somehow like gets it away from the person I've taken it from and doesn't let it go on me. I have no idea how I figured out that technique, but it works.
So what do you need me to do?
You can just relax, but I do want to tell you that you have to drink a lot of water for the next 24 hours because I'm not sure why, but it's kind of dehydrating sometimes.
Okay.
I'm going to go into your energetic field and I'll just scan you and I'll work on areas that I feel you need work in.
Okay.
And I'll tell you what I feel. I've been doing this for a long time, so it looks like I'm just being a villain, but... Okay, I'm in you. Wow. You feel like you need to be cleaned. I'm just scanning on you. You feel really electric to me, actually.
What are you feeling when you feel?
Well, I feel it's like a big dense charge, kind of. What's going on with your lower back? Have you been having bad posture or lifting things?
Yeah, my back's been hurting from being hunched over and editing.
Okay, yes, I figured that might be it. I'm going to take care of that for you. It won't fix the structural problem, but it will take some of the discomfort away.
Okay.
So I'm woo-wooing Melissa. All right, so when I count to 3, we're both going to inhale through the nose and hold it for 3 counts and then let it go through the mouth. And we can turn each other's heads so we don't
Okay, we'll turn this way.
Okay, so right now I'm pulling the energy out and shoving it back in, getting like a big, good, like sort of Play-Doh wad of it.
Okay.
And 1, 2, 3, inhale, hold, 2, 3, and exhale. I forgot to say that I cough. Or sometimes I sound like an old man on The Sopranos when I do this.
Awesome.
Did you feel anything?
Yeah, I feel all of a sudden lighter, and I feel like there was something like on me that is off of me now.
Yay.
Awesome. Thank you, Pleasant.
Yeah, so I'll look at this too. When it's a big, want for someone to feel? Oh, your hands are already cold, but can you feel how cold mine are?
Yeah.
Because if you feel up here, it's just warm.
Oh, yeah.
When my hands get really cold when I heal, I don't know why.
Because you pulled something out.
Yeah.
Awesome. Amazing. All right. Well, thank you for showing us that.
You're welcome. So if you're going to try to develop, like directing your energy to anybody, what you want to do is get a feather, probably not as big as this one. This is a big hand-sized feather. That was all that was on hand. You want one of those little ones that would, come off like a cheap Forever 21 kind of boa, like those. But what you want to try to do is move it through the water by directing your energy. If you don't have a feather and you don't want to do that, you can also make an energy ball. So you have to really visualize it in your head and really just direct your concentration to that point. And it may exhaust you at first because this takes a lot of work, especially if you're not used to it. Nowadays, for years I haven't been getting knocked out by doing energy healing, but when I used to do it, I would be exhausted. I felt like I had just practiced dancing for 4 hours or ran a marathon or something. I would have to go and pass out. So it's a metaphysical muscle you're developing, but if you're doing it for healing or to even just try to move a feather, it will take things out of you. So make sure you're very hydrated and do it at a time where you can take a nap after to replenish if you can.